Welcome, everybody, to this edition of Attention Talk Video. I'm your host, ADHD and Attention Coach, Jeff Copper. I've been doing this for a really long time. Sometimes get the courage up to tackle those really hard issues, those tough things to talk about, those hard truths, really in service for you. And today I want to talk about getting people to get it. Like, how do you get them to get it? Like, you got somebody in your life that's got ADHD and you want them to, like, you need some help, but they're not getting it. Or you got ADHD and you want somebody to understand you, get you, but they're not getting it. Like, what's this all about? I'm going to speak from my experience. Um, I do that because my experience is my experience. I'm just sharing my insights. Maybe other people have different definitions of this, but in my opinion, there's only 5 ways to get people to change what they're paying attention to. 5 ways. One, you tell them what to pay attention to. Makes some sense, right? Well, let's think about that. If you tell somebody to pay attention to something, there's a few factors that have an influence of if they will. Number one, how much does paying attention to that have an impact on their life? And number two, how much do they trust you? If what you're redirecting their attention to, the more it has a significant impact or risk to their life, the higher level of trust they need to have in you in order for them to actually shift what they're paying attention to. The older you get, you need higher levels of trust. And there are some times when you get to the point in time where there's nobody that you trust, you're going to need to see emphatic proof. So let's talk about this. Let me say you think the world's flat, and I'm saying the world's round. You might trust the hell out of me, but you're not going to sail off that way to go east because you're going to fall off the end of the world. You're not going to do that till you see emphatic proof that the world is round. That's an extreme. That's the first way. You get people to change what they're paying attention to. Oh, by the way, young kids look up to their parents. So there's a lot of trust. It happens, but again, as you get older, the trust decreases, the impact kind of goes up, and the ability to direct people's attention gets less. So next, you have an accident. Basically, somebody's in a situation where they're caught off guard. Their defenses really aren't up. They're inexperienced, and all of a sudden something happens, and they get it, and they'll shift your mind. Now, accidents are accidents, and trust me, you we try to create those accidents. I haven't really seen that very effective, but it happens. You just pray, I guess, for it to happen, but just realize that's another way people just change what they're doing. Next is I remember when my older son was in school, he got a good grade one time, and I actually, he had been studying with somebody. I said, "Hey, you got a really good grade, but I saw that you had been with a group of people studying." And then you got another grade. I said, "Yeah, wow, that's a good grade. That's really," and sometimes just like before, I saw that you were studying with a group of people. What I'm all doing, I'm not telling them anything. I'm just pointing out a correlation between success and a factor over a period of time. And I'm doing that in such a way where it's not threatening and they can choose to pay attention to what I'm saying or not. As it turns out, in this particular situation over time, my son did. But you'll notice is I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just sharing data and they may or may choose to do it. The fourth way to get people to shift their attention is, I might say, is, um, I have ADHD impairment, and I get on my computer with Zoom with my administrative people, and sometimes I'm just talking through my inbox, and it's a world of difference to get things done. I make decisions a lot quicker. I get some input, and I would say that, and I'd say, I talk to my brother out loud all the time. I tell people, like, I do this all the time, and it really, really helps me think. I'm really just sharing my experience and the data in various types of ways. And other people would listen to that and they may or may not pay attention to it. They choose that, whatever wow, I think I'll try that. The fifth way you get people to change what they're paying attention to is through the Socratic method. The answer's in the question, which is what life coaching is built upon. As a life coach, your clients are created naturally resourceful and whole. Our job is to ask questions of them to get them to realize what they already know. And when you ask questions, it's not like data questions like, what's the temperature? Like, what is hot to you? When you ask people open-ended questions, you're sending them off to think and explore and come back. There's no guarantee they're going to come back with an aha, but fundamentally, that's what it is. So you have 5 ways that you can get people to change attention. Now, we have a tendency to tell people, parents, spouses, you tell them what to do. Now, understand with ADHD, if somebody's telling you what to do and it's a big risk or whatever, you're feeling pressure and they actually get defensive. So when you're trying to get them to see it, what you don't realize is the way you're doing it feels threatening to the person with ADHD. So you're actually pushing them away. Rick Green, of the ADD world, once told me, he said, the more you argue statistics with people, the more you push them away. Think about politics. And it didn't occur to me, but you're right, right? The more you attack people, the more you get away. So if you're trying to get people to get it by pushing them hard, you're trying in earnest because you want them to get it, but sometimes you're really pushing them away. What you want to do is you want to gain some influence and maybe try the accidents or accidents, but one of the other 3 type things. Why am I doing this and why is this a big deal? Well, because there's a lot of you out there that are impacted by ADHD and you're trying to get people to get it. And I learned a lot from Elaine Taylor Klaus. Quit trying to control it. Take one of these other forms of attention to try to gain some influence. It doesn't mean that it's going to work, but I think you'll find it'll increase the probabilities because when you're trying to be too direct, it's difficult. So that's if you've got somebody with ADHD. If you have ADHD and you're trying to get people to understand you, recognizes everybody witnesses the world through the lens of their own experience. And sometimes they just don't want to be confused with the facts. And the more you press them, again, the same thing happens. You kind of push them away a little bit. And it's kind of funny because we all want people to get them, which really means you're trying to control their attention. I've learned anything in coaching business, you can't control people's attention. All you can do is have an influence. So if you shift from that, I'm trying to control, trying to get them to get it, to be patient and try to have an influence, there's no guarantee you're going to have an impact. But what I found over the years is you have a higher probability of having impact than forcing it down their throats. So I hope this is an insight. By the way, what I've described, I think logically makes a lot of sense. Sometimes it's difficult to execute in the heat of emotional battle when you really care for somebody or you really need empathy. But again, if you can self-regulate around it, there's a chance you can get a better outcome. So with that, if you're new to our channel, subscribe. We try to share nuggets like this. If you're existing viewer, what are your thoughts? Does this make sense to you? Or do you have another way of getting people to change attention? Also, finally, we do what we do in service of you. We certainly appreciate any contribution by hitting the thanks button. Also, I have a new intervention called cognitive ergonomics from the inside out. It's a new field of engineering and a new way to look at ADHD. If you like my content, go check it out. It's really kind of cool. It explains lots of stuff that the current interventions don't. So with that, we hope you've enjoyed this edition of Attention Talk video. Take care.